Hey, welcome to the March 7th Budget Committee meeting. It's a joint meeting we're having with the selectmen for the purpose of hearing information on the items we did not go through last Monday. First order of business would be for the Budget Committee is approval of the minutes from the last meeting that were sent out. And there were a couple of corrections that have gone around. So
I'll move as corrected.
I'll second that.
all those in favor? Are approved. The items that we're going to look at tonight are cemeteries, parks and recreation, town hall, technology, community development, animal control, public works, provider agencies, CIP, if there's anything left on the IRT, county tax, code enforcement officer, and just a little overview on the training and merit pay. If there's no objections, thanks to our gift from the skies today, I'd like to move Public Works up first so that Nathan can go out there in case he's got to do any work tonight. So if we can get a run through on Public Works.
Good evening. Hang on a minute, I wasn't completely ready.
That's all right, we like to throw things, it's kind of like snow, we like to throw you things just.
Throw it right into me. Do you want to do CIP while I'm right here too, or?
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Public Works. Well, pretty much the operating budget, the only thing we added to was a 0100 account for wages, and 1380 was a rental account. We added 1500 for a total increase of $3,327 in the operating budget for Public Works. Oh, and the new the increase in my salaries, thank you, Don, is for clerical help, secretarial help for 2 hours a week. That just started, actually day before yesterday, I believe, wasn't it? Or last week? Last week. And the operating budget, that's about where it stands. We're waiting for the contract renegotiations with P&K. I have not got any numbers on that, so I put last year's or this year's amount in for a placeholder. We're discussing with them taking over 6 miles of Route 85. We're traveling that road anyway to get to our stuff. It just makes sense for us to do it while we're right there. The truck's going up and down the road anyway. So the only thing we're going to be adding to the cost, our cost, would be one more set of cutting edges. And we're going to move one of their trucks out to Raymond Cape to try to better that service out on Raymond Cape, because that's been kind of suffering. That truck that does that route does 121, Raymond Cape, Deep Cove, and Main Street. We're trying to shorten that route up a little bit. But have not heard back from them. I was hoping to have it for tonight, but didn't make it.
Teresa?
Excuse me.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Teresa.
Okay, so if P&K comes back with not a good number, and it's going to jump it up here, do you have like an alternative plan?
Yes, we'll go out to bid.
Okay.
I will do something different. I'm not going to entertain any increases. With us taking back 5 miles of, almost 6 miles of road, it's got to go down. And he understands that. In the conversations we've had with him, that's the direction they're heading.
Okay.
I think the holdup right now is whether they're going to do a 3 or a 5 year contract.
Okay. Thanks.
Questions? Brian?
Nathan, as you've gone through I know we've had a P&K relationship for a long time. I know a number of the towns in the area basically do it themselves, and I understand it'd be a capital expenditure cost to get the vehicles up, but have you looked at that and done the analysis?
We've looked at it a few years back. We'd have our numbers would be a little different now because we just purchased a truck last year, so you'd have to cost that truck out. But yeah, the short answer is yes, we have.
And what's the outcome?
You'd save some money. I don't know what the exact number would be, but you'd save money. You'd have more staff to do work that we're falling behind on in the summer. It's a hard question to answer, to give you a yes, let's do it, or no, we don't do it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of benefits to having the contract. for me. It's not cheaper, but it's easier. I pick up the phone, I got 4 trucks and a loader. I don't have control of those 4 trucks that we should have if we had our own crew. You'd save on material because their trucks are getting to the point in age that you can't get them calibrated for the material that you're spreading. Our trucks are calibratable. What you'd see in savings, I don't know. I'd have to do that. That I have not explored.
But you would see it as being, there would be some type of savings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that would be after
That would be after.
a huge
Yeah.
investment of probably close to $1 million
Yeah,
in trucks.
there's $200,000 a truck. We paid $170 for the one we got. That's if you went out and bought all brand new stuff. I don't think that we should do that. I don't see the cost savings in buying all brand new stuff because you're not going to use all that equipment all summer long. So you're going to have, like most towns do, they've got 4 or 5 trucks sitting around all summer long that they don't use. And there's really no reason why you couldn't go buy decent used stuff, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 trucks, get 10 years out of them, and still come up with the same service. You'd have to hire a couple of part-time people because you just don't have the volume of work or the resources to keep that many people busy year-round. So you'd add to our staff, you'd have to probably add 2 full-time people and a mechanic, and then you'd have to have a couple of part-timers on top of that. But yeah, there is an investment there. And you've got the loader you'd have to either do a winter rental on, or purchase a $200,000 front-end loader.
And then there's maintenance on all.
Oh, absolutely, yep,
So the ROI is really slow on this.
correct.
Don?
But having made the investment, and if you're comfortable with the carrying costs, there is something to the idea of the utility of having your own crew and what you can get out of them in the rest of the season. So that's the metric and why most towns have gone that way. We haven't elected to do that. The towns to the west of us, some have not elected to do that, probably the majority of the small towns. So would it ever be cheaper? In my view, it would never be cheaper, but you would get a lot more for your money. For instance, what have we gotten this year? Not a whole bunch.
Exactly. Well, that's
Not a whole
exactly.
bunch. But on some years, you get more than other years in terms of, you may get what you pay for and then some. But would it be cheaper? Only if you bought a fleet of equipment like they have, which we wouldn't run as a municipality, and you did it on a part-time employee basis. If you ran it on a year-round basis with decent equipment, better equipment, let's say, then equipment that would pass municipal, standards, and we wouldn't buy equipment like that, probably. So that would be good.
No, go ahead.
So would that be cheaper? I don't think so. If you did it with full-time people. If you did it with surplus equipment, completely surplus equipment, old equipment, really old equipment, and had a mechanic and some part-time people, maybe. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that you would. I don't know what the volume of savings you'd see over the whole year. We're running around $2,800 a mile to $3,000 a mile in-house for the plowing that we do. That's the trucks, the fuel, depreciation over 10 years to a zero value for the equipment. It just seemed like the easiest way to do it. P&K's around $4,700 a mile for what they do for us. So it's all on how you look at it, I think, and what you're going to get for the benefit of having more crew, or what you're going to lose for the benefit of having pick up the phone, you got 4 trucks.
Yeah. I know Gray, for example, does all their own work. Do you have
Yeah.
any idea what their per mile cost
I
would be?
did not ask Ray. Now, Gloucester's pretty close to what we are. He did an analysis a couple years back that did the whole budget over his whole entire budget per mile, what it cost, and his budget's broke out different than mine is.
He's
so-
close to your internal versus the P&K cost?
Correct. You take everything out that he's. If you boil our 2 budgets down to equal, we're right neck and neck. We're about $3,000 a mile.
Thanks. I had one other one if I may. It's my annual sand allocation question. Oh God, here it goes again. 41.2 in the budget. Last year you spent 35. Pretty heavy winter.
Yep.
This year you're at 6. 6 plus. I don't know what tonight notwithstanding. I'm wondering if there is an extra, and I know this is probably small dollars, but a $5,000 there that could get taken out of that budget. I just wonder, when would we ever hit 41.2 if we didn't hit it last year?
We've carried a surplus of sand over every year, so that's why you don't see that number used every year.
Okay.
And there's a cushion there for the increased cost of sand that I don't know what the price is gonna be until like the end of July, 1st of October, July, August. Last year, we put sand up for, I think it was $2.50 a yard. They jumped to $5 a yard this year.
Okay.
The dozer rental went up, trucking costs went up. So we're gonna hit that number this year because we're gonna fill the building.
Okay.
That's for 4,000 yards, and that's our average over a 5-year period of what we use for sand.
All right, thank you.
On that same vein, on salt, I mean, we typically, that you've kind of been held hostage to the market on that.
Right.
Based on where things were this year, do you expect to see that drop, and is this a time for us to go out and stock some, to
If
salt
we-
some away, so to speak?
They won't tell us whether it's gonna go up or down until, again, it's into July before we know. We don't have the space to stock it right now. With the new sand salt building, we will have the room, and then that'll be the time to buy it. We don't get any different pricing whether we buy one truckload or the whole 1,000 ton all at once. The only thing that'll do is it'll save us a hassle having to call every time we need salt.
Yeah.
There is no savings on that. And then unfortunately, if you even, to add a little more insult to it, if we don't purchase all the salt this year and it stays piled up at the yard in Portland and the salt prices go up, that pile just went up. They won't sell it to us for what we had it for last year. So I guess the simple answer is if we have the space, you should buy it at the end of the year.
Can I follow that?
Yep.
I know a lot of the discussions would circle back around with the IRT. With the apparent building of a new salt and sand shed, wouldn't it be wise to have that constructed first prior to stockpiling for the future?
We actually started it last week.
The salt and
Salt shed, yeah, we started the groundwork last week. We're hoping to have that done before the middle of June, and we're gonna pull everybody off the road crew, and we're gonna try to fill it before the end of the June with what I have for a balance of this year. So we'll have a surplus for next year if we need be. There is a chance at some point, I mean, if you keep getting winters like this, that you're gonna end up with a full building at the end of the year, and you could skip a year buying sand. I wouldn't recommend it, but maybe cut it in half for that 1 year and just take a one shot in the arm.
that wouldn't be the case this year.
No, not this year, no.
When do you buy the salt and sand?
We buy salt and sand, we put them up the last week of October. We push sand up, we stock the building then. We don't get our bid prices for the salt until, I think it's the end of July.
Okay, and then going back to what Brian started, the expenditure this year as of January 31st is only $6,500.
On sand,
Right.
correct. We had almost half a building left over last year, and we had sand stockpiled outside from previous years. And we moved that all inside the building this year. I don't think we hauled but 1,500 yards or so into the building. And in that number is the dozer rental and the hired truck rental stuff. So if we come middle of June, we've got money left over, I'd like to fill the building this year with that balance of the money. That was my plan, trying to keep stockpiling the sand outside. So when we got ready to build the building, we would have a surplus of funds to fill the building.
Thanks.
Brian?
Just a quick question. On the utilities and the phones,
Mhm.
and it says cell phones, is that your whole department's,
2 cell phones.
I'm sorry?
Just 2 cell phones, myself and my foreman.
Okay, that's it,
Yep.
just 2 cell phones?
Yep.
Okay, all right. All right, okay, good. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Other questions on public works? I guess the other one I would have would be, and it would somewhat tie into CIP, but where oil's where it is right now, are we in a position to accelerate anything if we bump up in the CIP on the maintenance side,
On paving.
on paving?
Coming into July 1st, we're going to have $1,029,000 saved up in that account. The 2013 bond, there's $33,000 left that I got to spend before July 1st. So to answer your question, we're gonna jump on it as hard as we can this year. Liquid asphalt is at an all-time low right now. And obviously fuel's low, so I'm assuming that our per ton cost is gonna be low. The problem I've got is when we started with the bond, we had a lot of roads ready to go in the spring. When they started to pave, we were ready to go for surface. We're now backed up with a lot of construction work that's gotta be done. I'm hoping to get going sometime about the middle of the summer, I guess, would be about time we're gonna start putting pavement down. We've got a month on the simplest road before we even get going on it with pavement.
Right, I mean, I just look at,
Yeah.
this is the time if we can do something to be able to jump and,
We will be able to lock in, it's a bid for the paving, but it's got an escalator in it that goes up and down, follows that liquid asphalt market. So, yeah, if you could pave today, it would be great. But if the roads aren't ready, you're really kind of wasting money putting paving over the top of
yeah.
them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the whole purpose of doing the study too.
Correct,
Look-
right.
Look at what we had to do and not throw money after it, but. Bob?
With the intended roads to be worked on this coming summer season, paving season, do you issue any type of notification of which roads, what the plan for the paving season is?
Yeah, we'll advertise it. We typically do a presentation for the selectmen, and it'll be advertised online at that point. What we do when we go into a development or onto a road, we try to get out and see everybody, knock on doors, this is what we'll get planned. And a lot of times it's because we got work in front of people's houses, and I want to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes. We're going to fix any problems that they know about right there, and that's how we get around about it, talk to people.
Ralph, can I do a quick follow-up? Nathan, the way that Plains Road was done was outstanding, and I've been watching it, having traveled a lot. It's holding up beautifully. The side support is all that rock is just rock solid. It's not moving at all. Is that the new plan? Because that was pretty intensive. What you did on that, is that the kind of paving we're talking about as you go?
That's what we try to get done. A lot of it's subject to what's underneath the road. We were very lucky on Plains Road. We were able to get good ditches in there, and there were spots that we added gravel. But yes, that's what our plan is. That's how we try to do everything that we do going forward.
I look at it compared to, some of the patching that gets done, or the paving, so to speak, on 85 and the like, and it's just night and day. And I think there's a penny wise, pound foolish aspect. And if paving asphalt material is at a low, I'd urge us to do it right.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth putting down, to just put it down and spend the money. It'll last longer if you do it right, or as good as we can do it. We're not doing any really rehabilitation of the base of the road. We're just dealing with the surface, and we're trying to get the water out of there. And that's the two key items that'll kill your roads, the water.
Yep.
If you can get it out of there, it takes care of most of your problems.
Thank you. It's a great job.
Any questions on Public Works?
Yes, one more. How much is left in the equipment reserve?
Equipment reserve right now, I've got $11,414 in reserve, and I've got $12,000 left over in this year's budget. And we budget $85,000, so that is going to give me July 1st, $108,586.
Thank you.
Questions on that? As long as we have Nathan here, let's hit the CIP, because he's got a big chunk in there as well. The two biggest chunks in there are the road work, as far as the maintenance side as well as the construction bond side. And on the maintenance side, do you see any problem with staffing for getting that work all done as well as the construction work?
No, we're going to have to hire some ditching out this year to get it done. To try to get even half of what I'd like to get done, we're gonna have to hire some ditching out. But as far as our internal staff go, we're geared up and good to go.
Questions on CIP?
Nathan, how many miles are you planning on getting done this year?
We're gonna try to get about 5 miles done this year. We're working on through the list right now on what we gotta do to each road, and that'll dictate how far out how many miles we're gonna be able to do to what we have to do to each road. Right now, Mill Street, Patricia Ave, and I think North Raymond Road would be the targets. If we can get North Raymond Road thrown in there, that's gonna push us over the 6 mile.
We're still talking like 125,000 a mile?
Yeah.
Any questions there? Okay, go out and make the road safe.
Are we done? Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for taking me first. Appreciate it.
The cemeteries.
Okay, cemeteries. I have a few brief notes here. We have a mowing contract. Last year's increase in the contract was in the budget, but not in the specific area of increase. So that has now been corrected in this budget request. There's an increase in the maintenance request of $200 and a new line for software maintenance of $585.
Questions? Brian?
Go ahead, Marshall.
There's a separate request for $400 from the American Legion for flags. Shouldn't that really belong in the cemetery account, or are they putting the flag somewhere else?
No, that is in the cemetery account.
It is, okay, sorry.
It was bundled. It's
That's
another
a separate
contract.
piece of paper, yeah. Sorry.
Just I guess a general question, there's a number of places throughout the budget where we've got contract mowing. Do we go out as a general overall mowing contract, or is it specific?
Yes, it's a general overall mowing contract, but I think the idea this year that Nancy has broken it out by department.
Okay.
But it's a general overall contract, yes.
Okay. Good.
We don't bid it by, departmental subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
So it costs $6,000 to do cemeteries?
I don't know about do you want to comment on the breakdown, Nancy, how you came up with the breakdown? The bid came and broke down that way. So the bidder elects to break it down the way they want to, which is what I thought it was.
Okay. Just looking at me like I'm nuts.
With a push mower?
Yeah.
Bob, you had a question?
Yes, do these numbers reflect actual contract prices, or are they anticipated contract prices?
Actual contract price.
Brian.
The two Brians.
Let's start with this Brian.
Go to the left, Brian.
Brian Bookends.
Just a question, for the software maintenance, is that something that is, that we have to buy into because it's part of a larger cemetery software? I mean, $585 just for maintenance of software? I mean, is that something that we don't have any control over? I mean, okay, I mean, that's all right.
You want a mic?
The software maintenance, we bought software last year so that I can build a database of all our cemetery information. And that software requires a annual maintenance fee.
I mean, is it part of a larger network? I mean, you can do, you could do the cemetery list on an Excel spreadsheet or something. I mean, I don't know how many.
That's what I have been doing. And
Okay.
the software that we've bought allows being able to make the conveyances, which are basically deeds for the when we sell the property.
So it assists you with
It assists me in that.
other facets.
And
Okay.
the next piece of it will be a GIS component so that we can map out the cemeteries
Okay.
in the software. So
Okay.
it's a beginning step to begin building the data.
All right, thank you.
I can assure you that when it comes to cemeteries, you want GIS precision when you excavate.
Oh, yeah. Now the other one.
So I apologize because there's going to be a few questions here. Sue, maybe to you first. The question on the numbers on page 19 where you talk about the cemetery budget. If I understand, you're talking about last year having the software to update, and then there's the pay request for that, and the maintenance was, you put it 3385 on the budget page on 46. On page 46, I'm seeing it looks like 4,200 plus the software maintenance of 585. So I'm trying to understand whether I should look at page 19 or page 46 in terms of what the accurate,
Just let me open what you're looking at.
unless I'm not tracking.
What's the narrative?
Because you're talking about there was $4,000 for cemetery maintenance, and then there's also the tracking of the software tracking. So the total requested for these items is 3,385. But if I go over to the budget page on 46, I'm seeing 4,200 plus the 585. Maybe you can just check into that, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that's not the deep questions. The deep questions are coming. No pun intended, sorry about that.
No.
Wanna go down a dead end here.
What I was getting, or, yeah, I should go. Whoops.
Here, just spin this one.
Well,
That way.
or where's the hand one?
So I can manage to break something.
Steer this one.
What I was getting at is last year, we just did a lump sum of $4,000.
Okay.
And this year, I tried to break down what we actually spend to get a little closer to it. And the $4,000, it wasn't, the maintenance wasn't budgeted as a part of that, so I looked at that as something separate and added to the budget.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that makes sense, but
So so page 46, where you have 4,200 for the maintenance plus the software general maintenance, $4,200, then the software maintenance at 585 is correct.
yeah, I don't really know what you're looking at on page 46.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, that's a compilation that Nancy put together.
Okay.
So
All right.
the detailed spreadsheet is what
Okay.
I put together.
Yeah. I apologize, but I looked at the revenue page. I was looking for any kind of revenue from cemeteries, and I couldn't find it.
I don't know where that goes.
It goes into trust.
It does go into the
fund.
trust?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of, like, on an average, and I know it's going to fluctuate, is there,
The past year, maybe 6 or 8 lots, somewhere in there.
at
Not a lot
at
of
a
lots.
fee of what?
If it's a resident, it's $400 per, or I should say 6 or 8 plots. And if it's a resident, it's $400 per plot. If it's a non-resident, it's $1,000 per plot. We've only sold $1,000, I believe, in the recent few months.
So with the due respect to everybody who's buried here, why are we in the cemetery business as a town? And this is not a question for you, but I think we should be asking the question. Our budget has doubled since 2012, 2013. And the projected increase, it's increased 75% in 2 years, and projecting for next year, another 45% increase. So this is becoming a rather large line in the budget. And what I'm hearing is revenue of a few thousand, a good year might be $5,000. I don't believe that a lot of towns manage the cemeteries, and probably at this point, obviously we're in, I was going to do another pun, but I won't. We're in knee deep, I will. But I don't understand why are we in the cemetery business? And why is it, yeah, Don?
Do you have an alternative? Sometimes government ends up as the entity of last resort, and then there's no pun intended, but in this case, every town I've served in, the town is the responsible entity. It's certainly not a moneymaker. It's something that the towns historically took on. There are towns, of course, that have independent associations and endowments, and I'm sure you can find examples of, very creative and innovative, historic, endowments, all sorts of different models. But I think the predominant model that's out there is town ownership, town maintenance, town expense. It certainly is not, you know, anything you're gonna look at on a dollars and cents basis and say, boy, that's a, you know, revenue neutral or something that's advantageous to the town in any way.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking for revenue neutral. I would think there would be a revenue loss, but we're looking at talking about expanding an area, which is going to have a cost to it. And it seems to me that revenue and expense is way out of whack. And the part of that goes back to the mowing contracts, which are showing at $18.04 per month, but that's on a 12-month process. So if you think about a 6-month, that's about $2,700 a month for mowing the lawns of the cemetery. And maybe I should, you know, take a better look at what we've got, but that's a lot of money.
We have 7 cemeteries.
7
that we're
cemeteries.
maintaining, yeah.
It's actually, I know this won't sound great, but that's, in my experience, that's not a big number. Not a big number. I remember, you know, it's all relative, of course, but and it depends on the market for mowing and competitive bidding and so forth. But you know, order of magnitude, 15 years ago, you know, another town, similar number of cemeteries are higher than 60,000 on a competitive bid. But it was an area where landscaping was landscaping was valued differently, maybe. And so landscaping here has a lower value, and if you go further west, it's lower still. And it also depends on degree and kind, how much you mow. We continually, despite, I think, good maintenance, we continually in the summer season have people, no matter who the contractor is, who say it ought to be mowed more. They want more mowing, more maintenance, more upkeep. The town's failing in its duty to do that. And so the more visibility you have, the more people that pay attention to that, the more interest there is in seeing us do more. So that number actually is not super high.
Okay.
Comparative to towns I've been in.
Well, maybe I guess the questions will be for next year about, you know, whether we should be expanding, because it looks like we're not going to make up it on volume, that's for sure. So.
No.
One of the difficulties are.
There's one other thing, there is an income line that offsets some of that.
Well, but I'm hearing that income line is
No,
a few
the income
thousand
line
a
that,
year.
the income line that Sue's talking about is the lot sale side. What I'm talking about is the perpetual care line, which is a $4,000 income line.
Okay.
Which-
Is that also in trusts? Is that what?
comes out of the trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's approximately 4,000 in perpetual care per year.
Right.
Okay.
Now, it gets even better if you run out of space, and then the question becomes, is it the town's obligation? You know, whose obligation is to see that there is space available? And so I have been in towns where there actually is a, you know, capital expenditure to acquire lands.
Yeah.
And so we actually have, you know, spaces available so far. But what do you do when you run out of space? Is that the town's obligation? Is it do we have to do it at all? I mean, these are legal questions, I guess, but typically towns would acquire new lands when they exhaust the existing lands.
It's going to be $40,000 next year. Not this year, but I mean the following year is what and thank you, by the way, for giving us a projection of what the realities are going to be. But that's
One of the reasons
money.
I did that was the original plan was to finish the Raymond's Hill Cemetery this year. It was surveyed year before last, and they've done some work as we had money this year. And the intent was to finish it in this coming year, but we've put that off to try and keep the budget down for this year. But I wanted you to see that is a looming cost.
Yeah, that's good.
Because one of the difficulties we're running into is that while there is plenty of room in the daily annex of the Raymond Hill Road Cemetery, I have yet to have anyone except one person want to buy anything there. People want to be buried in the village, or they want to be buried on Raymond Hill. And Raymond Hill has very few plots left. And Raymond Village doesn't have many either that are left. So that's one of the reasons that if the town is going to continue in the cemetery business, as you put it, I think we need to expand that particular one. And especially given the money that's already been put into it, that I would think you'd want to at least consider that.
okay. Thank you.
I think the North Raymond Road Cemetery, that's a pretty tough mall, because it's raised,
Well, then it's a dumb place for a cemetery.
no. Inside the cemetery. There are
I mean, I'm
raised
just saying, you know.
Things like that. And the question I have is, mowing, does that include landscaping around the stones? Are they trimming the bushes?
It includes trimming and
Yeah,
and
okay,
raking.
that's
and-
labor
and It's
intensive.
super labor intensive. You know, we don't manicure them like some places, but there's a fair amount of that goes on, particularly, you know, when you're coming up on Memorial Day and so forth, and, you know, get them spring cleanup and then fall, you know, in the fall, there's various times a year when it's more intensive than others, but, you know, I think depending, well, every contractor we've had, I think, has done a good job, but depending on who you ask, you know, there are people who think that we are not doing enough. And, you know, I would argue that point, but you certainly, with the type of work that's involved, it's really limitless what you could do.
Right. Well, but this goes back to if we kind of, to
Right.
the term we often use, the Raymond Way. The Raymond Way isn't to do everything where you're manicuring.
And there would
That's
be
not
people
the way
who
we
would
do it.
support, there would be people who would support that notion. And but I've been in places where we manicure them, you know, weekly, and there are people who still don't think that's enough. So it depends on who you talk to. Some people don't think it's that, you know, I won't use the word important, but that a critical thing, that if the grass gets a little long, it gets done just, in some towns in rural Maine, it might only happen a couple, 3 times a year.
Yep.
And,
Right.
you know, and sometimes they'll do a lot in the beginning of the year and then let it go.
Under maintenance, you have 4,200, and it says, are we actually, if somebody puts a stone down at a cemetery, we're responsible for it if something happens to it? To maintain it?
Basically, if it breaks or something, yes. That's part of the maintenance.
But that's done with sometimes all deliberate municipal speed. I mean, we don't run out with a crew and fix it.
No.
You know, we do
We
them
hire it.
periodically, we hire it done.
And it
And, I
hasn't
mean,
happened yet in the last 2 years.
right.
That's
and
why I
some-
put $2,000 in this year's budget to maintain some stones. There are more than 15 stones in Riverside that need to be fixed, that are broken. Some of it's due to frost heaving them and they break.
I mean, I'm not against fixing a stone by
Yeah.
any means.
And we
I'm
haven't
just
had
saying,
vandalism that I'm aware of.
I have parents that are buried in Westbrook, and obviously something happened to their stone, and I paid for it. The town did not pay for that stone.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Well, and a lot of the stones that are broken are in the
Mhm.
old section, where the family has now died off, isn't here. The people that originally erected them are dead, and several generations dead. So it's
Yeah.
those, mostly it's those stones that need to be fixed.
And then I suppose if it's sold with perpetual care or not, I mean, that may be the difference between us and Westbrook.
Mhm.
But then the question becomes, if they're not perpetual care and the families eventually move away, die out, whatever,
Mhm.
and then you end up with a cumulative, through various means. I mean, it can be vandalism, it can be just as simple as frost heaves. I mean, the old cemeteries, the graves actually collapse because they don't use cement liners, so there's a constant filling and maintenance issue there. So, I mean, if you don't maintain them, you know, if you go way out into rural Maine, you can see places where they don't maintain them, and then they become very unsightly. And then that has its issues as well. And in a more developed place, there'll be people who won't think that's very respectful and the proper role for the town.
I agree, I just, where's the bottom line gonna stop? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, is the increase in mowing just in better track of it, a different portion of the mowing contract, or, I mean, a doubling in 5 years seems like a lot, but is it just part of that, how you account for it?
I think it was last year, the year before, we renegotiated, went out to bid again, and there were considerable increases then, especially in the cemetery portion, because of the amount of intense labor that it takes to mow around the gravestones and so forth. And last year, the amount was in the budget, but we got the exact breakdown after budget season. So even though the amount was in the budget, it wasn't necessarily in the exact accounts properly, and this year it is.
So some of the difference between this year and last year is the actual
Apportionment,
number
yes.
as opposed to the best guess.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And that could change depending on who bids the contract. Because somebody may choose to load one particular aspect of the work differently than another. Because they're giving us that breakdown, right? Nancy? Right.
Other questions on cemeteries? Okay. Parks and Recreation.
Contract services, an increase in the contracted mowing, $650. The Raymond Rattlers, we're going to increase them by $800 to bring them back to the previous amount that they had received based on the receipts. And we do have a representative from the Rattlers here tonight, so.
See, we've got a couple, we've got, I think, someone from baseball,
And
someone
baseball,
from
yes.
Raymond Rec, and someone from Rattlers. So, why don't we take them, we'll take baseball first.
So I'm Walter Manchester. I'm the treasurer of Raymond Baseball and Softball. So I'm basically here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions on the baseball account?
Look, just clarification, this is the same amount you've asked for every year. You've never asked for an increase or anything?
It's been the same as long as I've been involved in the program.
Right.
Yes.
Just a question, I'm just new. The 109 Raymond children, are they all Raymond children, or can children from other, like Casco or something, are they allowed to play, or is it only Raymond?
They're all Raymond children. In some years past, I don't think that's the case this year, but in some years past, we had a couple Wyndham children join in on like a softball team in order to fill out the team. But it's basically all Raymond children.
All right, thank you.
The other towns have their own teams, and we play against those teams.
You got to draft the right kind from Wyndham.
Other questions on baseball? Okay. Raymond Rattlers?
I'm Larry Wood. I'm here to represent the Rattlers and the president of the club. Any questions you guys have?
I do want to thank you for getting the support in this year. It was one of the things that kind of stuck in people's craws in the years before. That, there was nothing to back it up, so we didn't see where any money was going. So that helps us out a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Questions on that?
I was just going to echo that. Thanks, Larry, for getting in, because it gives us a much better perspective of how that fits into the overall budget.
Okay, good.
Thanks for the work you do.
What's the equipment purchase?
Well, we sold a groomer just recently, so we're going to replace it with a new one. It's number 3. We have 4 pieces of equipment, and it's pretty expensive. So we just...
Are those the things on the half tracks?
Yeah, it's a...
modified?
An UTV, utility vehicle with tracks, and then it also has wheels for summer maintenance if we get enough crew together to do it in the summer, but this year's been just a terrible year for us, so.
There is no year.
Yeah, we had 3 good ones in a row, but we'll have to tough it out. A lot of less people joined and less volunteers, but overall we got, I think, 17 families and about 10 businesses that are involved with it, and keep it going. It's a good winter sport to get out and recreation. A lot of people go out and cross-country ski and snowshoe off those trails, and we want to keep them going.
On the revenue side, how do it look this year based on the way the winter was?
2,300.
Okay. So even with a down year came out all right.
And that's registrations?
That's based, that's
registrations.
Other questions on the Rattlers? Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Raymond Rec?
I have some financials here. I apologize for not getting back to the pages last night. Hi, I'm Beth Clark. I'm the president of Raymond Rec. And this is Lee Walker, our treasurer. And we have Dan Sweat, who is the director of the soccer program. Raymond Rec's an all-volunteer program with the exception of our swim program. We do raise money to help offset the expenses of hiring a licensed and certified Red Cross swim instructor as well as a lifeguard. We usually have a budget somewhere around $25,000, which helps us to afford around 420 or so children to participate in our programs. We have basketball, running, ski, soccer, and swim. The premise of the program is that we are self-sustaining. All of our programs should support themselves and keep the costs as reasonable as possible, as low as possible. And we are respectfully requesting $2,000 to pay the cost of mowing the fields at Agawam. And we haven't increased that. The price has been the same since about 2006.
Can we get the name of your mower?
Actually, that comes Agawam themselves take care of that.
That's like a corporate contract.
They do cemeteries?
I'm not sure. I was thinking of that as we were listening to this. Are there any questions that we might be able to answer?
Teresa?
All right, Beth, I know the kids love the ski program and the soccer program, and I guess if I'm reading this right, you guys are really in the minus on those?
The reason that we run in the minus on the ski program is that we are no longer able to utilize the RSU 14 buses.
And before, it was donated, correct?
When I first started with the program about 18 years ago, we did not pay for our buses. The town or the school department covered that. I'm not exactly, I can remember, I would want to say it was maybe 10 or 12 years ago, that somewhere in that vicinity where we did start paying the school department for the buses. And when Raymond merged with Wyndham, we had some problems the first year or two. We ended up hiring like a custom coach, which is very expensive. We were able to get back with the RSU for 3 or 4 more years, which helped us bring our costs more in line. But unfortunately, the last 2 years, this year and the year before, we have not had the ability. My understanding is that they do not have enough drivers. They have the buses, they do not have the drivers. And so we have been having to go back to using custom coach.
So, and I know Gray is also in the same bind as far as I guess the last 2 years they've been looking for bus drivers too, so I know that. Soccer, I know, is a huge one for the town of Raymond. That's a huge, huge minus.
Well, this year Dan can attest to, we did purchase new soccer goals, which will offset over the next couple of years, and that we'll recoup that money back. But we were in need of new soccer goals.
That's why it's that.
That's why there's that much of a deficit this year.
More questions on the rec?
Please.
Brian?
Quick question. Beth, how many people are involved in the program roughly? Do you know?
You mean
all the
volunteers?
No, I meant students.
420 as of last year. So we usually have around 400, I would say, would be on average. And they're all students from Raymond. Occasionally we'll have a parent who works here in the school department that might live in another town and their child might participate, but the majority of the children generally are from Raymond.
Thank you.
So you don't get any of the Wyndham Raymond kids that come up this way if this is offered? Nope.
Maybe on the ski program Friday night occasionally, but for the most part, Dan. Okay, I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, sorry. So in soccer this year, I did have a child from Wyndham and a child from Casco. Yep.
Yes, please. You have 6,000 expenses for Jordan Small. What are some of those expenses?
I'll defer to Lee Walker on that one.
Well, I guess my question is, they charging you rent?
No, this is actually, this is a program that gets spit out from our accounting, but the Jordan Small program, the actual cost, that's for this ski program. So those costs are the lift tickets, the rentals for the students, and the
I'm
busing.
just curious whether they're charging you rent.
No.
That's how we break down which ski program is which. The RES is Raymond and Jordan Small and Friday.
Is there any rent charged for the basketball?
We do pay the school department every time we use the schools for the janitors.
Thank you.
Not for the gym, but for the gym.
Just on Saturdays, right?
No, if we hold a sign-up night for ski or basketball or swimming, anytime we utilize the school, we have to pay for it.
Okay, because that's not my understanding. If there's already custodial staff there and they're already in the building, then what happens is it's supposed to be a community be able for the people. But if you use it on a Saturday that they have to come in special, then you get charged.
Teresa, I think that's what's going to happen. To be honest with you, they've not charged us in the past.
Okay.
And I actually talked to someone in Wyndham who is responsible for facilities, and they said, you will be charged. And we said, we had been told that we would be, but we hadn't been. I have not gotten that bill yet this year, so I'm not sure about the breakdown of what they're actually charging us for.
They're not supposed to be charging.
I will. That's good to know, and I
Yeah,
appreciate you
no,
sharing
no,
that information with me.
That was
I
the
haven't seen it.
understanding, is this is a community school, this is for there, and as long as there's custodial staff there, that they're not coming in, because most of the time, groups that go in there clean up after themselves.
Right.
And they pick up and they leave and they get out within that specific time. But if it's the people that are using it in the community, then no, we were told that we would not be charged for that.
Okay.
We
So
have been
fight
told.
that, if that's
Yeah,
the
I
case.
haven't seen that bill yet. I've only.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Other
We're
questions
paying
on
for
the
our
rent?
own schools, it's ridiculous.
All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Town hall.
Don't start me on that.
Oh, yeah, I'm kidding.
Wrong meeting.
Okay.
Wait a minute, we're
Keep
doing what
it
the
moving.
voted
We doing town?
Okay.
Sorry, he did it.
You made the most noise.
For town hall, we have a decrease in the heating oil due to the lower cost, thankfully. Alarm monitoring is an increase, and an increase in maintenance due to the need for a cleaning contract. That's $135 a week. What you have is a number of things in the budget that intersect with the schools electing to go out to private contract. And so we had a quid pro quo, we had an exchange of services. I called it One Raymond, the idea of working together for savings. And so that's ended more or less now. There are a few vestiges of it that are still around, I guess. We're able to use the school for town meetings and elections. And we provide storage space for the buses and access to power. And so there are a few things that are left, but very few things. So mostly the advent of the RSU, you've slowly seen that. The connective tissue between the town and the school is no longer, so that they're in a private situation for their snow plowing now. That was the big trade-off for the cleaning.
Questions? Deb?
And you said for the cleaning, that the trade-off for the plowing and stuff, so what are you gonna do about the cleaning now? Are you gonna hire someone to come in and do it?
Yes.
Private?
Yes, which is what we had, before the so-called One Raymond program, we did that. That's what it was a private cleaning service. When I first arrived here, that's what we had, and we actually tried to model off another town, actually the town of Cape Elizabeth. They call it One Town, I think, there, and I thought it was a great idea. Let's see what we can work together on, sharing resources, and so, that's how we came about working with the school, because the school has custodial people.
Right.
We have snow plows. We thought, what a match! This works. And so there was some money also. It wasn't just an even swap, but I still believe that it's the most efficient and best thing to do, but it's inconsistent with what happens in Wyndham. So I think for the school, they want consistency, and I think they want to be able to say, we solicited private bids, and so we know we have a competitive bid. even if it's, in my view, now I'm editorializing, not the lowest cost, at least it's a competitive bid.
And what's that bid gonna be for the year, to have someone come in and actually clean? A private company compared to what you're paying now? Is it in the budget for this year?
Yes, we have an estimate or a quotation for cleaning at, I believe, $135 a week.
That's what Nathan got.
That's what Nathan got. But what happened before was the school did it, and then, you know, we did the plowing, and there was some
Right.
additional money that we got from the school, but it was a partial trade, if you will, sort of.
Okay. So a private company that's coming in, they'll have their own liability and everything else as far as
Yes.
coming in?
Yeah.
Don, I see the line item for town hall repairs, renovations, maintenance, has jumped substantially over the past 3 years. Do you have any anticipated repairs, renovations, or maintenance efforts that you're looking to accomplish with this increase of the budget?
Well, the person that heads that up is Nathan, and, but also Sue has been very involved in it, but what's coming this coming year, I believe, is because you know we did some extensive renovations to the front section of the building. I believe that Nathan and Sue have plans to do, and I'll let Sue speak to this herself if she wants to, but I believe there are plans to address the back office area, the modular area, and you want to talk about that, Sue? All right. Sue and Nathan have headed this up. They did a great job with the front office. We get a lot of compliments about that.
How big is the jacuzzi going in there?
Oh, it's, the best part is the water slide out my window to get to it. Yeah. So, hidden accounting. The back office, now, especially now that the front office looks like a professional office space, the back office needs a little TLC. We want to at least paint and recarpet. And part of the recarpeting is, at this point, in places, the carpeting is literally holding you up out of the cellar. So some of the floors are going to have to be fixed, especially at the back entrance way. Don't bounce too hard there. So that's the maintenance we're talking about. There might be a few other minor things. I'm not sure about the soundproofing and where that's going.
Well, there's very little, zero privacy in the back office. So one of the things I wanted to do is to soundproof the walls around, my office at least. And we've got a quotation back, and it was a very un-Raymond-like price, so we may be looking at other options. So that's one thing I wanted to do, and I haven't come up with a new option yet. And as far as the floor being spongy, that's been spongy since I've been here. So I don't think it's an imminent collapse issue, but yeah, we're moving to improve the I guess the appearance, certainly the function with the front office renovations, and all the systems in the building have been rehabilitated. The roof's been rehabilitated, the windows. We've done countless positive things to the building, and with the expectation that we're going to be in it. So this is just another phase of that, and but it's does have some challenges still. So I think pretty soon though, once we roll through the back office, I think we will have addressed it though. Yeah.
I guess I want to see money put in there somehow for privacy. You have to. When you're standing at the back doors and you can hear what's going on in Don's office and the door's shut, that's an issue, especially for a town manager. So, I mean, and I know, and put bubble wrap in there or something, you know what I mean? You could, yeah.
And the setup is less than optimal. I mean, I don't have secretarial support, so I which is like a buffer. Most places, most professional offices, you'd have a ante-room, an outside room where people would come to and a reception, but they can just walk in, and so that's what makes
it fun.
Makes it interesting. Remember the show from the '70s called The Thrill Seekers? So municipal thrill seeking, people come in and they can walk right in, and then bang, whatever their issue is your issue. Now address it. So it makes for interesting.
I think he says he doesn't want that anymore.
Any questions on the town hall?
I have one more. The renovations to the town hall to date, which I do agree look quite professional. Where did those monies come from out of last year's budget?
the town office reserve.
Facilities maintenance.
Right.
All right. Technology.
On a brief here, I have a brief for each of these. We have a change from our station manager to a videographer. A change from station manager to plain videographer, right? So from a full-time position to a part-time position. And then a corresponding increase in the contract for the network administrator to cover the management of the broadcast studio. So we're going to more contract private services and the elimination of the full-time employee in favor of a part-time position is the major change there.
Yeah, I tried to put some comments in this year to explain some of the items a little better. If you guys get that in your email or distributed.
I did distribute that. Yeah, and that went out.
It was distributed about 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And it went out about 5 minutes later.
That's great.
Questions on technology? Brian?
Okay. Right, he keeps looking down to you and he holds for a second as he's looking.
Yeah.
It's okay, I got your back, Brian.
I'll take the, so, I guess, yeah, so I'll go big picture here. I don't know enough to know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, there's a huge list of things, and obviously it all works, and I think one of the challenges with technology is when it works, you don't notice it. It's seamless. So I was trying to think about how to get my head around it, and I went to the Wyndham budget for technology and their, what they call, I think they call it their television channel, but it's their communication service. And our budget's at 84% of that of the Wyndham budget, and that seemed like kind of out of whack, given that they have a police department, which I'm assuming has technology and a lot more people and stuff. So that's the only thing I could, as I was looking at this, was saying, are these the right numbers? I don't know enough to know what this stuff really is, but it did surprise me that our budget's at is at 104. Excuse me, we're at 95,506. If you take, excuse me, no, 184. Yeah, 184,291 is 84% of the Wyndham budget, which is 219,204. That's last year's number. So, in all fairness, I'm sure their number would come up a bit. So that's the only thing I could kind of just in terms of that seemed high to me. But I don't know what that means.
I don't know if theirs covers public safety, electronic locks. You see what we cover.
Yeah.
And we cover. I'm obviously from a business background. I worked at Unum, Fairchild, and places where we do things. And I don't know if they have off-site storage. We do 2 copies of backups. We do the proper information technology the right way. And if you look at any line item, I can explain any given one.
I'm probably doing an apple, in all fairness, Kevin.
Right, if you look at what I always like to look at is that diagram that shows what we support.
Right.
And if you look down through there, we support these functions, the public services, and then we have software that supports those services, and then we have the hardware that supports the software. And I can answer any question you want, but what we supply here is really good security, which is one of my number one things. We supply very good backups so that if anything happens, we can be back in service very quickly. We do buy new computers, but we expect, like I showed on the line there, to get 8 to 10 years out of a desktop. We buy used servers. We used VM, virtual machines on those servers, so we take the best hardware use we can, so we have multiple functions running on each server. But we have it so that if the town office burned down, in about 4 or 5 days, we'd be completely back up here. So, and that costs money.
Yep.
If we eliminate that, if we don't want to have off-site backups, we can cut, considerable out of the budget. If we don't want to have good timely backups, we can even cut more out of the budget. But if you look at the budget, one of our biggest items is in the stuff that we can't control, like Roadrunner cable.
Yeah.
So right off the top, my budget goes down by 2,000 just to have Roadrunner, Time Warner. And if you look, at any given item, I can explain, I don't know where we could cut if year after year I come up and I say, okay, here are the services.
Mhm.
What do you want to cut?
What do you not
What
want?
do you want? What do you not want me to do?
And then we'll gripe at you later because you cut it, right, Kevin?
Well, no, I mean, it's, in all fairness, I try to run it the best professional way we can at the least cost we can. Like I say, we buy used servers. We buy servers for $4,000 or $5,000, and we rotate those through on a 5 to 10 year cycle after they've already been used at a corporation for 5 to 10 years. And so we save money when we buy a server that costs $20,000 new. We buy it for $4,000 or $5,000 used. So, and there are a lot of things you can't control if you want good service. For instance, we upgraded our antivirus this year from AVG to Kaspersky, and that costs more. But if you look at security, you don't want to have the mediocre security. You want to have the best security you can.
Makes sense.
Because security can put us right out of business instantly.
Yeah.
Last year's budget meeting, I, and I'm sure others on the board, listened to this presentation, and we got the feeling of it had to be done, and it had to be done now.
Oh, that you're talking about the upgrade to the studio.
I'm talking about hardware and software.
That's an upgrade to the studio. This is just an ongoing budget. This is no capital in here. It's
Okay.
we roll out things.
Am I wrong in that perception that there was an emergency?
That's for the studio. Yes,
Okay.
totally
Then
different.
My question becomes, how come only half of your budget has been spent? If there was such a demand for the equipment that you needed last year.
We haven't spent the money at all for the studio because the person that was doing the studio left us. I have started to look at that. I can't just go out and say his thing is all right and start purchasing that equipment.
Again, I don't mean to be mean, I don't mean to be critical, but it's just last year, the feeling there was impending doom if we didn't do this. And
Well, we've had equipment
wasn't
failures.
done.
We've had equipment failures. The person that was going to do that, Dominic, is no longer working here.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, that threw that off was the plan was predicated upon full funding, and there was a reduction made, and the dilemma has been to try to find, and I don't think Kevin has found that yet, a way around I think it was a $10,000 difference, and so
Yes,
that's
it was.
so
We
that's
cut
what
it
we're trying.
Right.
That's what we're trying to do, and I think there were people who looked at the numbers that were put together for the equipment that we had requested or Dominic had put together, and they were not unreasonable numbers. So to come up with a solution that's going to be a quality, long-lasting solution without the money is more difficult than if you have the money.
We originally put the studio together for $50,000 approximately. That was 10 years ago. 10 years now, we're basically redoing it completely for the same amount. What we're doing is we're moving from the unit you see over there with a silver cover on it, costs $20,000. It costs $25,000 a day. We're not going to go with proprietary equipment anymore, because if there's a failure, you have to replace it, and you have to budget to upgrade. We're going with PC servers to replace all of our equipment so that as we go, it'll be just part of the ongoing budget and normal server upgrades. And the only thing we have to pay for is software maintenance. So we won't have any big capital bumps in the future. We'll have it just as part of the normal technology and budget for the cable station. We're providing now service through YouTube for free. All of our meetings, if you notice, are out there for every committee, and we're going back in time, putting all the historical ones out there. I've also gone through over 600 discs now and created backup copies for those. So we have 2 copies, one up here and one down at the town office. So it's a huge project to convert all those and all the VHS tapes, which I'm working on. But as far as spending that money, I don't want to just go out and on his, research and just start buying the equipment and putting it in. So I'm going to take my time and make sure we do it right. And again, we're probably going to have that other $10,000 that was cut last year. But that project will be ongoing starting probably April to June timeframe.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, thank you. I have, in my experience, I have seen lists like this before, so I have to give you credit for it. It's a nice detailed list. When I look through there, and I do look through those things, a couple of questions. You said that, security is very important, but the question is your server room secure? You said there's no fire suppression system, you need to install vents in the server room, and you need an alarm system. So how secure is that?
Well, it's locked.
Well, okay, I don't mean to be that, I'm just.
No, these are things that need to be done. Well, we have right now part of the security system that's in the town office. If the temperature goes up too high, we'll know that.
Okay.
So, but fire suppression would be good. And also in the back room here where the backup servers are, we'd like to have that. And we'd like to have security in this building, which we don't have.
Yeah. And you want to upgrade your network to 10 gigabits. What is it now?
Right now, it's one gigabit network, but we move every night doing backups, hundreds of gigabytes between the 2 buildings. So to do that, it just barely finishes up every night. And we stagger, we have weekly backups, monthly backups, and daily backups, which are incremental. So we stagger the backups so everything can fit in. So if you look at the number of servers on that hardware infrastructure, that's how we back those up, and we would like to go a little faster. It's not going to cost that much because the fiber's already in place, and that's what we're using now. It's basically adapters for the switch and for the servers themselves.
So the question that I have when I look at your list, and you got lots of servers, and you got lots of backup is, have we really leveraged the cloud more? I mean, can't we back up?
We did try that. We tried that to Amazon, but guess what? We only have 50 megabit service out of the town office. 50 megabit.
Yeah.
We couldn't back up. We tried. We actually did that for a while, tried to Amazon. It took a week to do a full backup of one server.
So instead, we buy all these servers and.
Well, actually, no. The servers we don't buy the servers. We have 2 storage servers that we use, just 2. They have each about 50 terabytes of space. Mm-hmm. All our backups go to those 2 servers. One in this building, one in that building. If we didn't want to have disaster recovery, then we could get rid of one. But that is, again, just normal maintenance now. We've had them for about 4 years already, no problems, except for every now and then you have a disk drive that goes bad.
Something I don't think Brian knows though too is these videotapes are the official records, not the net.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I've read that, yeah. But for example, I mean, I'm not sure we all want to be used to YouTube stars here. I mean, it's on YouTube.
Every
Is that
meeting.
legally okay? And anybody ask your permission? I mean, in terms of you just grant this? when you
No,
come?
that was part of the plan to get everything public. We play them on our station also on cable
Okay.
TV.
All right.
That
I mean, just fact when I saw it, I go, wow, I'm on YouTube. Yeah. I'm not sure I want to be on there, but it seems like an awful lot of expense for.
Well, there's no expense going to YouTube at all. That's free.
Okay, but I mean, just overall, it just seems like it's an awful lot of.
Well, again, tell me what you don't want. We'll take it out.
Well, I don't know. I'm new here. I'll have to work on it.
I think
So.
one of the big differences that between us and say, well, I'll go to the west first, then to Wyndham, but if you go to the west, you don't have things like, redundancy, backup, security, any kind of sufficiency to protect your data at all. Now, in the case of Wyndham, I would say they're bigger, but I would not argue that they're better. And I don't know a thing about Wyndham, but I do know that when I go to the meetings, I talk about what we do and how we handle our infrastructure, our data, what it is that Kevin does. I don't get a sense that they're exceeding in any way what we're doing. I would guess that they're not exceeding what we're doing. So Kevin makes the point, and I think it's a good point. Do you want this, kind of you know, high level, I would call it high level relative to, you know, the competition, but it's also what I would call adequate to protect our data and information. And I would hate to think of the cost of what it would be if you had to, we couldn't actually, I guess, replicate this stuff. As I understand it, in the towns to the west of us, there's a fire, there's some other kind of, you know, event like that, and they are not only out of business, they're out of data. I mean, it's an electronic world, everything is archived and stored this way. The archival records are digital, and so I think if you want to be in this world, you've got to do it right, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what Kevin is doing. I think he's got a proven track record with that. And are we doing more than our neighbors? Absolutely.
Well, Brian,
Absolutely.
actually, you bring up a good point about the cloud. If we had better connectivity, we could use it for backups, or, which would be even better, if we could be at guaranteed connectivity, you could move your servers into the cloud. My company, I have a server which is in Toronto, which has my company's email. It has, you know, it actually has a Minecraft server from my sons. They run a server on that same server, but that costs, and that's a small server, about $200 a month.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm just a new guy here.
No,
so
I'm saying there's lots of different ways to do it, but and one of the things that that the communities are getting together on is trying to get better internet service, ISP service, faster speeds.
Yeah, I know
with
that's a priority, I guess, for all of Maine. So that you said that's the Amazon cloud. What about Microsoft cloud? Is that
same thing? They're just too. Well, it's the bottleneck is the 50 megabits getting out of here.
Yeah. Okay.
Even if we had a gigabit, it would be really tight, but.
No, I have read that even though you want to back up, you've got this service that's really very slow to get it really up to the cloud. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
A couple other things. When you said, and I don't think I got this right. When Don, you said things are safe, everything's good, but
well, I'm saying I'm saying that if you go to the west of us,
I understand.
There's nothing.
So we have good
and
security.
And if you go to the east of us, I think there's something more than nothing. But it's probably not exactly what we're doing. We're trying to do things in a workmanlike way that protects our data and security and prevents any kind of a catastrophic event to the degree that you can do that. Is there more we could do? Probably. And as Kevin indicates, could you do less? You could do less at a level of risk. It's ill-advisable, I think.
Yeah, okay. When you say remove admin rights from PCs, they all have, everybody's an administrator?
The way it's set up, they have local administrators. We run a Windows domain structure here. Okay. They have local administrative authorities, and one of the reasons for that is a lot of the application programs require that. And what I'd like to do, because the biggest security risk is, the way we have it set up now, if somebody wants to write to the program area on a PC, they get a prompt. It used to be they could just click and say, install this program or do this. They can't do that anymore. They actually get a prompt where they have to enter their user ID and password. I'd like to further do that, remove admin rights, which I've actually done on some PCs because we've had
my question.
We've had some trouble. So that they have to contact me if they want to, you know, if this piece of software or some malware is actually trying to install itself.
Yeah, okay. And have we registered all the Dells and the UPS units? Apparently we haven't, right?
We have not registered them online with Dell, not all of them.
And there is some time limits on those, I think.
Well, they have a number associated with them, so no matter when you register it, it's fine.
Okay. And I guess we're going to upgrade all our Win 7 and 8 systems.
We've actually started doing that.
To Windows 10 before the deadline for the free upgrade.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right. You got it.
Okay.
Well, that's in August.
Ryan, you sound like you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
All right. Bob? And lastly, last one, really. So, do we have some backup to LastPass? I mean, LastPass is just the free.
I use LastPass myself.
Yeah, so do I, but it doesn't always work. Let me tell you, sometimes some things. So I
well,
hope you don't have everything.
That's what I do. Every now and then, I get my paper copy at home.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll have more questions next time. Just kidding.
That's fine.
Bob?
Kevin, do we have any other options to Time Warner? Like Red Zone or,
Not yet.
That's the broadband study. I've been a participant in it. Kevin's attended, Laurie goes from time to time, and that's what we're trying to do, is to see if there is a way to get, alternatives to what we have now. And we're talking with the major and minor providers And Wyndham Economic Development Council, WIDCO, has commissioned a study which they're going to be releasing soon. There was recently a newspaper article about it, I think, gave you some information about what's happening. But that's the ballgame, and that's what we're trying to do as a group of towns. Standish, Raymond, Wyndham, Gray are all participating in that. And there are some opportunities. I won't speak out of turn because the report has not been released, but there are some opportunities, there are some ideas, there are some possible ways that could happen.
I mean, if you look around the country, places where Google Fiber's gone in and things like that, it really shouldn't cost us more than a couple $100 a month for a gigabit service. And we're paying what's almost $1,100 and some a month for 50 meg, which is just, you know, should be illegal.
I have one more question. I understand the adjustment for the videographer, and at the same time, the substantial jump for the administrator's salary. What kind of additional responsibilities are required upon you, and or is this totally? Are you the administrator, or do you have a administrative team?
I am now the administrator, and once the meeting's done, I take the DVR over there, I take it down to my office, I put the meeting up on, I edit the meeting, I cut the DVDs, I put it up on the station controller, schedule it on the station controller, and I get it up to YouTube. So, it's not a lot of time to do each one of those, but once you get 3 or 4 or 5 meetings a week, sometimes it's probably, it adds up.
So it sounds like you've absorbed the job of the original
Yes, I
station
did.
manager.
Yeah, and the problem is you can't just export it in one format, as you probably know, Brian, because YouTube requires that we do H.264 to YouTube, we do MPEG to the station because that's required by the station controller, and then we go to the DVDs. It's MPEG 2, DVD format. So you have to export it 3 times to get those, and it does, like I say, you just click a button basically, but you wait for those to come out, then you take the DVD duplicator and duplicate them, and then you have to edit them to put in, and got to make sure that everything looks right and the dates are right, and it takes some time, but yeah, I took those duties over, and
You're assisting that with your son.
well, yeah, I thought I was going to get a little more help than I did. But he's assigned a lot of other things. You've probably seen him a lot now. He's doing a lot of.
Yeah, we see him daily, pretty much.
So I've offloaded a lot of technical stuff for him, and I'm doing the editing and stuff for the station. But I have to pay him out of.
Well, and that's something Kevin does too. He also gets the school videos and gets them up here and has to edit them. And I know that, yeah, there's been a couple situations that he's had to quick edit them. Like if there's an executive session, that he makes sure that we can call him right away, because there was a situation where the executive session was playing. Not video, not here, wasn't done in his office, it was down there, but it was the sound, so he quick got it offline. But he also takes the Wyndham one and brings it up here and has to make sure.
We get the Wyndham, they load it up to, a site, and I FTP it over here, and when the meetings occur down there, so I do all the Wyndham meetings also.
Hands-on government, quick call.
Yeah.
To me, 30 seconds later, Kevin, 30 seconds later, stop the stream.
If we're, if we're getting into the situation where we get this whole separation between the school and us,
Yeah. Why
are we getting reimbursed for that time?
Well, it's only because if we want to watch it on YouTube, if people want to watch the meeting, they're going to have to, we're going to have to do that.
I hate to say it, but, let's call a spade a spade.
How many hits do we
It's
get?
their problem.
No, I agree that, but what?
Right? And if it's their problem, they've made the choice that they don't want to play in the box with us. It's their problem.
No, but if I can explain what happened with that.
Well, they also
did
come
fix
here
it.
too, and have, they alternate meeting places.
Yeah,
Right.
so they're still up here, but in order to keep Raymond informed, that's what we've been trying to do, is keep running the videos, because they're not doing it down there. And I totally agree with what you're saying, they're not wanting to play nice and everything else in the sandbox. But it's like, this is the way that Raymond can stay in touch. And I know with the RSU withdrawal meeting, that's something that we really wanted to make sure was happening. But I know before, we were getting calls all the time asking for help down there, is what it is, as to our, our technology people up here, helping with, Wyndham down there. And it's like, guys, no, you can't be doing that. But the videos was running up here because they sent the wrong video. So we were playing the wrong one they sent, so we had to correct it, is what it is.
But
That's
we do,
what happened.
yeah, but we still get the video, which
We do,
I don't
which
have
he still
to
has
edit
to-
those videos, except for
Right.
that one occasion. They sent us something that we had, it was an executive session that should have been cut off. But normally I just take that video, upload it to YouTube, upload it to our TV station, and which I do have to change the formats because I get it in the wrong format from them. And then I put it on DVDs, 2 master DVDs, so we have a record.
But what you're saying, Rolf, is he should be paid for that time if we're having it
Yeah.
up here.
All that stated, I think that they have shown a willingness, the RSU, to pay the costs that are directly related to what they're consuming for services. So, I mean, if you were, and I don't know what this is for money, but if you were to determine that, I believe they would probably take care of that. That'd be my guess.
Joe? Kevin, do we actually spend this $59,165 on upgrades every year?
Yeah, I actually go over my budget a little bit usually, right, Nancy? Sorry.
And what, it's just replacing old equipment all the time?
Pretty much, well, they figure we've got about 50 PCs, right? And if you do, 4 or 5 a year, that's a 10-year life on a PC, which is pretty long.
A long time.
That is. And the same with the servers. So we try to get as much out of them as we can. And if there's, we have 5-year, on the PCs when we buy them, we have a 5-year warranty on them. So we know that the first 5 years is going to cost us anything for maintenance. But after that, it's...
So you have a plan for replacement every year?
We try to replace the old, well, we don't do it if we can get away with it, but...
Because my thought is, you keep saying, well, if we had that extra 10,000, we can do.
But that's not this budget. The extra 10,000 was the one-time shot to upgrade the station.
Right. So why can't we find $10,000 in this equipment line to supplement?
This year, we've already found $5,000 for some other thing, which was installing Office 365, so that could have happened. But we had another expense that...
If you had the opportunity to not spend $10,000 starting on July 1st and put it into this equipment upgrade, that, to me, makes a whole lot more sense.
It does, but I have $5,000 less every year now because of the Office 365.
Because of licensing?
What are you running now?
We were running LibreOffice. So we've got that upgrade. I've got that almost completed now.
So why aren't you asking for more money then?
Because for various things, I mean...
Don't encourage him.
No.
I mean, yeah.
No, this...
It's 5,000 shorter.
It's 5,000 shorter, that we'll have to, hopefully, the PCs, I'll wait, if I won't upgrade something that's old and clunking along.
I can answer the question. The reason he didn't is because that was the direction that he got, and that's the direction the department heads got this year on the budget, because that's the budget goal of the elected leaders. So was to hold the line, and you don't hold the line by increasing the budget.
But it's the budget goals to hold the line, but if you need the stuff and we need it to run it, then ask for it.
I mean, it's like the disk drives, Joe. I don't know when they're gonna fail.
Right.
Some years is good, some years it's really bad. UPS batteries, really expensive, don't know when they're gonna fail. It's these electronics. I do the best I can. In some years, yeah, I'd have more money to spend.
I mean, it just seems like a lot of money every year on equipment, 60,000.
Well, it's not 60,000. Take out the 13.2 for the Roadrunner, and you take out all the software.
So that 13.2 is in the upgrades, technology computer upgrades?
Yeah.
Why is it in that line?
I don't know. That's where it's all technology. It's all technology.
So that 59 is not just hardware?
No, that's all software costs. That's
All right.
I mean, look at the...
Because I'm thinking that's all
No. Look it's mostly software.
Right.
Backup software, $2,500 a year. email server software, 1,000. All the archival software, because there's another thing that towns don't do. By law, we're required to archive all email. They don't do it. We do. That's a law.
Well, yeah.
It's a state regulation.
Right.
So that's $1,500 a year. I mean,
Well, I think for me, when you say technology, computer upgrades, that's hardware.
oh no, it's mostly software.
So why don't we break out what's software and what's hardware so we get a better
Well,
idea of what
did you get this?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
All right. Well, it's got it all there, detailed.
No, but I think he makes a good point, a better descriptor or breakout, yes.
I mean, I'd say less than half of that is hardware.
Okay. Then that makes more sense to me.
Yeah, much less.
Yeah. Because you can buy a brand-new desktop for under $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Right.
Don, with the exception of some specific software application software like the cemetery software, is everything else that's kind of information technology captured in this budget? What I mean are, do you ever buy laptops or servers in other budgets as part of that, or is it all here?
I believe everything.
It's all here.
Everything's here.
Okay.
Other than,
We don't.
what about for public safety?
Yeah, we've been purchasing theirs too,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and their servers.
That's how you get to that large number, across all the
And
departments.
NDS software, the office, accounts payable, accounts receivable, all that stuff, that is not in this budget. That's in administration.
Okay.
The Pontem software for the cemeteries is in the cemetery budget. So application specific is not in this budget.
Okay.
Foundation software is.
Got it.
So backups,
And-
antivirus for 75 computers, all of that type of stuff is
The
in here.
capital equipment is there,
Well, all equipment, right,
all equipment.
unless somebody buys something specific for, like the scanners for the credit cards, they would buy that out of the administration budget, things like that. All the cabling supplies, any of that type of stuff comes out of this budget.
Have you gone to the chip credit cards? Yeah.
I don't think those readers will read that willing, no.
So you have to upgrade.
Yes, they do, they have to be upgraded.
By law, you're supposed to have that done October 1st.
Or you're responsible, yeah.
Except that they haven't produced enough yet, so.
We haven't had anyone that I know of ask for it yet.
No, but the problem is, yeah, if you don't have them, and
Yeah.
you get.
You'd be liable if
Yeah.
anything happened. I'll pay my property taxes.
That's coming up next,
That one,
going
yeah.
up tomorrow.
Other questions on technology? Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Community development.
We got a decrease in the hours of administrative support from 9 hours to 8 hours a week at a reduced rate. Deletion of the Director of Development position, an increase of $500 in the advertising request, and then the Lake Region bus has been moved to the TIF. Those are the brief notes I have on that one.
Questions on community development?
Tax incremental.
Brian?
Don, sorry, I should know this, but where does this administratively fall within the organization, right? Is that kind of under you in terms of the community development aspect, or is there somebody else?
That's a really great question. Okay, I guess that's the answer at this point, yeah. That doesn't sound too good, huh?
I was wondering, like, for example, for the administrative support, is that mostly they're then working with Sebago Technics, or are there things that are just rudimentary things that you just have to do and there's not a direction needed? I was just trying to understand kind of how that works.
I would say that's a fair characterization of how that works right now.
Okay.
We don't have a department head per se that's tasked with it. We were moving down a different path.
Right.
We've reversed direction on that, and I don't think that's a bad thing, actually. I think that with respect to the whole back office operation, we've kind of gone back to the way it was, and we experimented a little bit with a consolidated position and a single individual, which exposed some weaknesses in the system, and so some, depth and redundancy, as we pointed out last meeting. I think you made that point, is a good thing. But, community development and related services, even the title might be a bit of a misnomer at this point. I mean, we don't have that developed function, I would say.
Okay.
So it's more in the support area, the maintenance area.
Maintenance and
Yeah,
support.
that's what I would call it.
Okay.
But maybe we need to rethink that a little bit. The title got a little, I won't use the word grandiose, but a little bit more than perhaps it is now.
Thank you.
Ordinance updates. I mean, we've got 5,000 in there for work with GP Cog on that. I thought, how's that tie in with the legal side in our, we talked about last week on the audit and legal? Because, I mean, we sent it there, they're drafting it, then we're going to...
They would draft it.
It's not full-time.
And GP Cog would do the ordinance work and the drafting. And then it would go for, be reviewed obviously by the various boards and committees in the line of approval, and then it would go through a, legal review as well.
I mean, how many, I don't recall what it was last year on that, but how many ordinances are we looking at?
Well, this is where I had expected Chris Hansen to be here this evening. I think he sent a very brief memo. We came in for about half a day last week. We've been plagued in the office. Nate was sick tonight as well, but Chris has pneumonia, so I'm not sure if he was supposed to be here this evening. He thought he'd feel better.
Chris says he's still sick.
I don't know as I have the answer on the degree and kind of ordinance work. I don't have that.
Or maybe you can get that and then send that out to us.
We can get that and send it out, yeah.
Yes. I'm just trying to tie it between what they're doing and what our...
Yes. So you want to know how the ordinance, what's the level of ordinance work? How does it relate to those two expenditures?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian?
Don, I was nodding off there for a minute. Just a question. What, for the 26,500, what exactly types of services are they providing? Is this for the Tobago, the contract, Tobago Technics? I mean, it just says, good, planning services. I mean, is it planning for the town? Is it planning for the community?
Yes, well, we don't have a planner, and so,
Right.
so what you have is site and development reviews and various, services related to construction and development approvals. I wish Chris were here. I'm trying.
Okay. But I mean, so is it on a, like an open contract where you just go in if you need it, you say, okay, I need this?
As needed.
And then they
needed.
charge piecemeal, or is it a set?
Well, you have monies that are expended and then reimbursed. I know that. I know that certain development reviews are reimbursed. Help me out here, Nancy, if you can.
And the planner is available in the office at town hall.
Open office hours, right?
Yeah,
1 day a week.
A day a week.
Okay, all right. I just
So-
wanted...
so-
He attends the planning meetings and so forth.
Okay.
Evening meetings. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else would he do?
Okay, that's good. I just needed to know what that one-liner was. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it can fluctuate when we had the issues down at with Fry Island and the parking,
fluctuates
for example.
up,
That was
and then it can fluctuate down, right?
Yeah.
It's because right now it's going in the, despite Fry Island, it's probably going to go in an upward direction because the more development activity you have, the more need you have for planning services. We use a contractor in many ways, in many areas of our budget, because the carrying cost of a contractor is less than an employee. So you have a professional planner, in this case a professional planner engineer, who's doing this work.
No, and they work with the planning board. I mean,
Right.
This is all support for the planning board and
Technical reviews.
anything that would have to come up in front of them.
That's not legal, this would be technical engineering, site work.
Yep.
Is it the right site distance? Does the drainage work? How many trees should you have, this sort of thing? All these different things.
Formulation of new ordinances, the
Yes.
language, make sure it's legal. Yeah.
Professional work related to development development and, related site works for the town.
Other questions on community development? Animal control.
Okay. No change in the animal control is what I have for notes.
Is on animal control? Brian?
Don, last year I know we talked about the contract services with the Animal Refugee League, and I think a number of us were like, wow, that's a fair amount of money for, and I can't remember the number of animals that were actually delivered, but I think we kind of left it like maybe we were going to, you were talking about maybe working with a couple of other towns or something, so I didn't know if anything had come from that.
The only thing we've done with other towns so far this year is we have worked together to share the ACO services, to work together that way. The contract comes from the Refugee League itself. So the question, I guess, is could we as a group of towns negotiate a better deal? We haven't.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We could definitely take a note of that. I haven't done that.
That's fine. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I was just wondering.
About that.
Yeah.
Other questions on animal control?
We could put them on the animals on the bus, so that it reduce the cost.
Put the animals
I'll be editing that one later, sir.
Charge them $2.
Just capitalize that.
Sorry, that's way.
Okay, moving right along. The IRT,
The IRT is, as far as I know, is at an end in terms of work. We, despite our chairs' best efforts, our best efforts, Nathan, Chris, our engineer, a number of us, as I indicated, I think at the earlier meeting, we have not come up with a site that we can move forward with for a rec complex. We've looked at a lot of different sites. We're still looking. So that would have been the big one had we been able to pull something together, but we haven't been able to. The other IRT projects, though, went very well, and I think we got very good value for our expenditures and ended up with good projects.
Are they doing the school this year? 'Cause that was on
the school is applying. I've been in touch with them. I've been helping them since Danielle's departure, and been we kind of divided up the IRT work. Chris is doing a little of it. I'm doing some. Nathan a little bit, and then Bruce for the projects that involve him. So I've been kind of talking to the school about their projects, and I don't think they've gotten their approvals yet. They're hopeful, however, that they're going to get the RES playground approved. Okay. So that is a potential for our town, our school, that would be from the IRT, but not in our budget.
right.
And they are totally finished at Camp Hines?
No.
No.
Lots to go at Camp Hines.
Good.
And what's happening is Standish has been approved, I think, for work on a beach. Is it a beach park? And Casco is awaiting, they're hoping to get approval for a recreation site. But I don't think they've been approved either.
Well,
Hearing that the RT, in terms of town projects, are complete, who's building this salt shed?
Private contractors administered by the town. It's a design build. We're our own general contractor. We found that they did not offer the kind of building that we wanted, that we needed. So, they could build some sort of a building, but it wouldn't be a building that would be suitable for that use and long-lived and what we needed. So early on, we were able to, unfortunately, we were able to eliminate them as a source of construction for that.
That's too bad, because
They could build a building. They could build a building, but it wouldn't. The sand salt building construction is a kind of a specialty area, and having built one, by the way, out of corrugated metal, a self-supporting corrugated metal one, you don't want that. What you want is it's not bad. It's still up there. It's still standing. It's 25 years later, but it requires a lot of maintenance. Scraping, epoxy painting, maintenance. What you want is laminated arch wood, because wood is not affected by salt, and so they don't do that. And then, skinned with metals that would be you know, resistant to corrosion. So which is, Raymond did it right, has a small but well-built, very nice building. So that's what we're doing on a larger scale. They don't build that kind of building.
What's the budget for that building? Because I guess
$600,000.
600,000.
Yeah. So we're off and running, and I would tell you that, you know, I had an opportunity to kick it off this fall, but the contractors are awfully busy, which is I guess a good thing for the economy, but it's a bad thing if you want to try to build something. And we got a late start, and then we would have been just barely able to get it going before the onset of winter work conditions. So we anticipated, of course, a bad winter, because that's what you anticipate. And we were anticipating the cost of winter concrete and all the things that are related to that. So we decided, let's be safe and not kick it off. And then, of course, we had a mild winter. So that's why we're late. And I mean, just in general, the other reason we're late is we've had quite a lot going on, and but it's going, and it's underway right now.
Any questions on that? We didn't do the CEO budget last time. We were hoping
Right,
Chris was gonna
and
be
I was
here.
expecting that he was going to be
But
here tonight.
I guess what I would do is open it up for any questions that anyone has on that, and then you can get those back, get the answers back to us on that. Any questions on the code enforcement office budget?
Give me 1 second to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the biggest question that, I mean, is, he's projecting right now a higher level of building than what we've had. So I'm just trying to get some feel for where that is, because that's gonna pick up on the, that should be some pickup on the revenue side, both from the CEO fees as well as increased tax revenue. So trying to get a handle on where that is. Any questions people have on that?
I need a second.
I have one question. The 16 hours per week at $18 an hour, and then the person also works 8 hours per week for support and community development. So it's going to be 16 hours plus the 8 hours?
Right.
Okay.
But the 8 hours goes into the community development.
Right.
budget.
We have two positions, two part-time positions.
So you're talking two different things, but it's going to be one person doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there are other things that are under the other position, which previously it had all been under one full-time position. Now there are two part-time positions.
Okay, so this person that's gonna be working the 8 hours per week is still making $18 under community development as well?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Except it's 17, because we've got a little buffer in there in the event that we were to give someone a raise, but it's actual 17, but budgeted 18, right?
So it's actually 17? Okay.
What we negotiated was 17. We always start people out at a lower level. And then it may go to that, it may not, so, we may not, I don't know where that's gonna go, but I'm just pointing out it's 18 in the budget, 17 is what we're paying for both positions right now. At the time we did the budget, we didn't know what we were gonna end up paying. I was able to do it for 17.
Any questions on CEO? Okay. Our other favorite topic, county tax.
Anticipated to be,
Anticipated to go up.
anticipated to go up
Guess they raised the value, they picked the valuation. up.
today.
Huh?
Okay, quick question, Rob.
Yeah.
Don, how do they come up with the, and I know I probably have asked this question every year, how do they come up with the valuations? Because I'm surprised, Casco's actually showing a slight decline. We're up 4.7.
Yeah, what happens is they take the entire county and they look at the valuations and then do a ratio one against another. And so if you got a decline in valuation, then you're likely to not see an increase.
No, I understand that, but so this is on grand list, right? This is the total valuation. This is our $1 billion or our $998 million valuation.
Based on the state.
The state doesn't.
The state, but where are they getting that number?
Based on sales and valuation. So if you sell big houses, it means the entire area has increased in value.
So the state does this for the entire state, and of
Yes.
course, obviously, the part that's in Cumberland County. But on a yearly basis, they're able to kind of identify and pinpoint that Casco's down 0.8, we're up 4.7.
Well, I don't know about pinpoint, but it's their
Okay.
best guess.
I guess we're glad we're not Pownell, but.
Brian, my understanding is it's a rolling average, usually reflects a couple of years ago.
Okay.
The state is slow, as they are on everything. They're compiling real estate sales data, as Joe said. They're compiling, they're looking at a host of things to come up with this. And they do it, and every year it changes, but it's not last year. Don't think of it as last year, and it is a rolling, I don't know if it's a three-year or 5-year rolling out, or something along those lines. The state puts it out, the county recalculates it, the county has no say.
Okay. And it's a black box, I'm assuming their formulations of how they do it?
They can explain it, because they're the state.
All right. I won't waste any more time on it.
But in general, to the question at hand, in general, if you have growth, development, activity, things are prosperous, then that's not going to be resulting in lower county taxes. You're going to pay more relative to the system.
Right.
They also take income into effect too.
Say again, sorry, Jim?
Income is part of that evaluation.
Oh, okay.
So the good news is we're prosperous and growing. The bad news is we're prosperous and we're growing.
But not as much as Pownell, so that's good news.
Or Scarborough. I mean, there's a town that is one that.
They're only at 3-4.
Well, but I mean, if you look at them over history.
Yeah, no.
Over history, they've come from a long, long way.
Yeah.
So there's other towns that you can pick as well that have done that.
Right.
I think it was a couple of years ago, we had a decrease.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
But that depends on how much increase there is everywhere else.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, in theory, if we have some of the growth, but, I mean, it's a good news, bad news thing, if we get this growth that Chris is thinking that we're gonna get, it actually is gonna, we're not gonna see it in here for another 2 years anyway.
Right, and it could be mitigated depending on what happens. I mean, the overall general economy picks up, so everything picks up, and so you redo the,
Right.
So you don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're gonna see places though that aren't going to be growing at the rate we are, and then you'll see places that'll grow at a greater rate. So it's really, I mean, totally impossible to be able to tell what it would be.
Very good. Where are we with state valuation versus our town valuation?
I don't know, but I can get you the answer on that tomorrow.
Because I mean, you know where I'm going on that is, are we, at what point do we
We're not even close.
start getting to the point where we have to start thinking of revale?
Oh, we're not. We're nowhere near that.
I mean, because at one point we were like at 102, so I mean.
We still are.
Yeah, if anything, we're hovering in the 100%. We're not even close. We're nowhere near on that. But I can. If you have precise questions on that, we can get the.
No, I was more worried looking at it from a growth standpoint there. We're still up at that,
Yes.
98 to 100,
Yes.
100 plus.
Yes.
Because
No revale in sight.
Okay.
Because at one point, we were actually putting CIP money away from the next
Right.
rebound.
Right.
And we decided to discontinue that based on those numbers.
Is there any money still in that balance for the next, or did we take that out of the CIP?
We took that out 2 years ago.
We took it out, okay. So it's
Took it out
current,
2 years
zero
ago.
balance.
We invested it in the town.
Like it.
Sounds like a selectman there.
Okay,
You running for office again, Mike?
any other questions on county tax? Other than the fact that none of us like it. this point, is there any public comment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know if you skipped it on purpose, but you didn't mention provider agencies.
Right, because we hadn't, there was none in the list, so there was no sense to bring them up.
So we did it on purpose.
I mean, the ones that, I mean, in theory, you've got a couple that are in there, but they're under TIF and things like that. So we already discussed those.
I was just gonna say that we still get requests, you should know.
Right.
And we just don't run them through the process, but we get requests. We tell them that we're not accepting those requests. So they haven't gone away.
So if there's no other questions, I don't have the date for that next meeting, do you?
29th, isn't it?
29th? 29th will be the next meeting?
Oh, yes, CIP for the fire department.
That's why you're here, Chief.
Didn't we already do?
No, we did CIP
And Deputy
for Public
Chief?
Works while he
No,
was
we did
here.
that, well, I thought we discussed that, well, I mean, we can certainly, I thought
mean,
we
Bruce, you
picked
stayed here
that
for
up when
2
he was here
hours.
last
Yeah.
week.
You missed your class, you gotta get up.
You didn't know.
It's the same amount as
You don't
last year,
have questions.
right?
It's fine.
The 85,000?
We talked about the roof, though. I remember the roof came up. I talked about the roof and why we're doing the roof.
That was an extra 75,000.
The 29th, I've got budget finance workshop, is that correct?
So I think we're,
Which roof was it? The one up here or the? Down on 302?
The big one.
the roof down here is relatively new. We put a roof on there, what, 6, 7 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, and this one we put on right.
So are they done, is it gonna be metal this time?
They give you a double win.
So the roof down here is asphalt, but the town did that.
Yes.
We did that.
Bob?
So our next meeting is on March 29th,
Correct.
and that is a workshop. Is that a budget finance committee workshop, or is that a combination with the select board?
That's a budget, that's a select board workshop.
And so therefore, the starting time of that meeting is at 7 o'clock?
Correct.
Do it earlier?
Well, that's when you usually start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct.
What's on the, it's on the town calendar, actually.
I think it says 7, doesn't
I think it says 7.
So we're not at that?
I thought it was.
We're at
on
that
both,
meeting,
yeah.
but it's run by the select board.
Yeah, it's late chair.
Right, that's what I have. And it's on a Tuesday.
There's no other questions?
Go on that day.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second.
That's what we're sitting here, laughing, getting a double whammy.